Minecart Madness is a unique boom coaster at Universal Studios Japan and Epic Universe. Themed to Donkey Kong, this ride uses a special coaster system to simulate jumping the tracks. It is a cool gimmick, but how's the execution? I will explain in this full review. Universal signed a deal with Nintendo in 2015. They quickly began brainstorming rides for a new themed area. One such patent was a boom coaster. This would have a coaster car attached to a boom arm. That boom arm would connect to a track several feet below guest view. Meanwhile, there would be a second fake track at guest eye level. This meant the car could use the fake track to simulate track jumps. This looked like something straight out of a video game, specifically a Donkey Kong game, where the characters were known to ride minecarts that would quite literally jump the rails. Flash forward to 2021, the first Super Nintendo World opened at Universal Studios Japan. Phase 1 contained a Mushroom Kingdom area with two rides, the Yoshi's Adventure Omnimover and the Mario Kart Dark Ride. This is easily one of the best theme park lands ever developed. It is a highly immersive area based on a popular intellectual property. The land is ultra colorful and busting at the seam with kinetic energy, as you have countless moving characters. This area was so popular that the park quickly greenlit a second phase known as Donkey Kong Country. This would contain the boom coaster for a ride that would be known as Minecart Madness. It was originally scheduled to open in 2024. Meanwhile, Universal Studios Hollywood opened their Nintendo World in 2023. But due to space constraints, it was a more condensed land. The only ride they received was Mario Kart. It too was extremely popular, but due to the nearby sound stages, they currently cannot expand this land. Universal Orlando's Epic Universe was set to open in 2025 with a full Super Nintendo World. This would include both the Mushroom Kingdom and Donkey Kong Country sections. Japan's Minecart Madness was originally intended to open by summer 2024, but it was postponed until December 2024 due to technical issues. This was disappointing, but understandable given how it was a prototype ride system. Adding to the complications, it was designed by Setpoint, a manufacturer who had previously built just 4 roller coasters. All their prior coasters were small suspended coasters. While Minecart Madness is modest height and speed in the grand scheme of things, it is easily the most ambitious coaster Setpoint has ever designed given the ride system. When Epic Universe opened in 2025, their Minecart Madness was ready to go from day one because they had the learnings from Japan. I love how this ride looks. It really captures the feel of the video games. The Golden Temple looks amazing, and I love the landscaping around the coaster. The fake wooden track looks straight from a mine train. The minecart themed trains look great as well, especially with those fake wheels spinning. And because of all the cars constantly cycling, you have so much kinetic energy in the whole land. I particularly love the vantage point looking over the final splashdown. Add in the iconic Donkey Kong soundtrack, and this is one of the best presented coasters out there. One interesting thing is that there are several points where the real track is very much visible off-ride. I thought this would be entirely hidden from view off-ride, but it's fine. Your attention will be on that fake track. I just find myself occasionally looking at the real track as an engineer, fascinated by how this coaster works. There are some subtle differences between the Japan and Florida versions. Japan's temple is browner, while Florida's is more golden. Japan also took more steps to hide Mario Kart's adjacent show building. Then the final splashdown effect is different. Japan's a series of sprayers that follow the car, whereas Florida is one single splash. Here are the two effects side by side so it's easier to see the difference. I mentioned Japan's initial delay, and unfortunately, both rides are still quite finicky. Both are prone to breakdowns. At this time, I would say it's the most unreliable coaster on Universal property. I was able to experience it multiple times at Epic Universe, but it was unfortunately closed for technical issues in my 2 days at Universal Studios Japan earlier this year. It was testing regularly there, but it never opened. I've heard some rumors it could be issues with the lift hill, but I also would not be surprised if there were sensor issues getting it up to full capacity. Due to the 4-person trains, this ride runs multiple trains with roughly 13-second dispatch intervals. I believe this ride can run 14 to 16 trains at a time. There will be 7 or 8 in the station at any given time, plus another 7 or 8 on the main circuit. To keep everyone safe, this requires a complex block system. Block brakes are the safety system that prevent coaster trains from colliding. Sensors make sure the next track sections are free before allowing a train to proceed. This requires a series of sensors working together. Otherwise, the ride will fault and shut down. We have seen some other Universal rides with many trains and multiple block zones experience teething issues. Hagrid's Magical Creatures Motorbike Adventure at Islands of Adventure is a perfect example. This ride was extremely temperamental after it first opened, often experiencing breakdowns or running at reduced capacity. Now it is a fairly reliable attraction running close to its maximum theoretical capacity. Universal will continue to tweak Minecart Madness, oftentimes after hours, until it meets their high standards. For example, on my recent trip to Florida, I was at Bar Helios 2 hours after Epic Universe closed, and Minecart Madness was still cycling fairly regularly. The other issue with Minecart Madness is that it'll close for any rain, even a light sprinkle. This practice is common at many coasters in Asia, but it is extremely rare for a ride at Universal Orlando Resort. So you need to be strategic when you queue up for this ride. If you see rain in the forecast, make sure to prioritize this attraction when the weather is clear. And definitely make sure you give yourself some buffer. The last thing you want to do is queue for this ride for a really long time, only for it to close before you make it to the end of the line. This ties into the next issue, the ride's throughput. To ensure everyone has a good view of the track jumping gimmick, the ride operates with single-car vehicles. While there are a ton of vehicles running at any given point, their small size leads to limited capacity. Each seats a max of just 4 riders, as there are just 2 rows of 2. Even with this ride's moving load platform and dispatches close to 13 seconds, this ride still accommodates less people per hour than your typical Universal coaster. As a result, this ride often has the longest wait at its respective park. At Epic Universe, this ride routinely has a 1.5 to 2 hour wait. If you think that's bad, wait until you hear how long the queues get in Japan. They are typically 2.5 to 3.5 hours long on an average day. The ride can pass the 4-hour mark on busy days, and it has hit the 5-hour mark multiple times as well. The queue can take forever, but it at least looks nice. It has a lot of switchbacks though. The first part is outdoors with solid landscaping. Then a majority of the queue is indoors. There is a power-up band effect on one ceiling at least. And there's an awesome Cranky Kong animatronic towards the end of the indoor queue. Unfortunately, all the queue lanes will pass by this. But a majority of the queue is simply good brickwork.
Suck brick, kid!
I wish there were a few more things to see, as it would help the wait move faster. And you may be driven crazy by the music playing on loop if you get stuck in there for an extended period of time though. How can you avoid a long wait? This strategy depends on the park. I will start with Epic Universe. Originally, this ride was part of early entry. This is an extra hour in the morning exclusive to on-site guests. I suspect Minecart was removed to give the maintenance team more time to fine-tune the attraction. I imagine it'll be added back in the future. When it returns, this should be a top priority during early entry. I would recommend arriving at the front gate a half hour before early entry starts if you want to be ahead of the crowds. Currently, this ride is scheduled to begin operating at the park's official opening time, but it routinely has been opening towards the end of early entry. My advice is to keep an eye on the app and head over there ASAP if it opens early and you have early entry. We took advantage of this in one of our visits, and we rode it twice in just 15 minutes. If you do not have early entry, check the app around opening to see if it is already open for the day and developed a sizable wait. If it hasn't opened yet or is a short wait, it is worth heading there immediately, because this ride will build up a big queue quickly. Another great time to ride Minecart Madness is before park close. In Epic Universe's early days, they would frequently close this coaster early on busy days, much like they currently do with Harry Potter and the Battle of the Ministry. But as of this recording, Minecart's queue stays open until park closing time. With no more express passes, This line will move way faster than it does midday. Even when I visited the park on one of its busiest days, Minecart was just a 45-minute wait at park close. Compare that to the 200-minute wait it was boasting midday. The ride is also pretty cool at night with the lighting effects. The one risk with this approach is if the ride closes for technical issues, which can happen quite a bit with this ride. If you only have one day at Epic Universe, I do not recommend this approach for your first and only ride on Minecart. The Express Pass Skip the Line Pass offers a significantly reduced wait, but is a very pricey upcharge. Right now, it typically costs $200 to $300 per person per day. This allows you to skip each ride once. I will be curious if they add an unlimited option in the future, like their other US Universal parks. Then this ride also features a single rider line, but be warned, it is not quick. There are usually a lot of people using it, that the park has to frequently close it for capacity reasons. It may offer a slightly reduced wait than standby, but it'll move at a glacial pace. How can you avoid the worst waits at Universal Japan? This is much trickier. Due to the popularity of Super Nintendo World, you still need a virtual queue just to enter the land during normal hours. Then once inside the land itself, you need to deal with the astronomically long queue for Minecart. There are two approaches I recommend. Both are costly. One costs time, and one costs money. Approach 1 is the rope drop Minecart madness, but this is no easy feat. Universal Studios Japan unofficially typically opens 1 hour early each day, sometimes 1.5 hours early. This is well known among locals, so to get ahead of the crowds, it is recommended to arrive at least 2 hours before the park's official opening time. This means you should be at the gate at 6:30 or 7 a.m. most days. If you want a chance to be at the very front of Minecart's line, you probably need to arrive at least 3 hours early. Yes, you heard that right. On our last day, we only had 2 hours max at the park before our flight home. We took a chance that Minecart would reopen. It did not, but we didn't know that until we reached Nintendo World. When we arrived 3 hours before the park officially opened, there were already 40 to 50 people there. The perk to arriving early is that Nintendo originally opens without a virtual queue. They implement this later in the day when the land gets busy, so by arriving early, you can guarantee yourself entry into the area. Now, while Universal tells everyone not to run, and has employees holding signs stating this, most people will run, so you need to move quickly to beat the rush to Nintendo. Otherwise, Minecart will already have a sizable wait by the time you reach it. For your sanity, if you have the money, I would recommend the Express Pass. That way, you get a guaranteed time slot to enter Nintendo, and you don't have to start your morning with a crowded sprint. Express Pass is a bit weird at Universal Japan. It is sold in 4 or 7 ride packages. It is expensive, often working out to $15 to $25 per ride, but it can literally save hours. With Minecart alone, you often save 2 or 3 hours. Express passes are extremely limited. They are not sold day of. Further, they are often sold out weeks in advance. They go on sale 2 months prior. Look up the exact day and time for your specific visit. The 7 ride packages with Minecart are extremely popular, but if you keep checking back, there often were a handful of the 4 ride packages with it available in the weeks leading up to my visit. From what I understand, the single rider line is also very popular in Japan, so it also frequently closes for capacity reasons. When it's open, it can often take 1.5 to 2 hours. That equates to a half hour less than standby on average, so you save time, but it is still a miserable wait most days. One approach you cannot use is entering the line right before close. Universal Japan closes all their ride queues, such that the last cycle goes out at the official park closing time. With Minecart's popularity, it frequently closes 2+ hours early. If you are confident you can do everything else during normal operating hours, a 2-hour wait at the end of the night is better than the 3 to 4 hour queues it can have in the morning and midday. At the end of the queue, riders are batched into groups of 4. You then move towards the load platform as a group. Seating is then first come, first served. Most people will pick the front first, so if you're a group of 2, you have to hope you're the first group of 2 being batched. I think the front row is better for two reasons. One, the visuals. While the back row is elevated significantly, it definitely does not beat the unobstructed view up front. Two, the smoothness. The back row is a bit jerkier on the turns. The carts themselves are very comfortable. This is a ride where all your belongings ride with you, bags included. Even if you have to store a bag at your feet, there is plenty of legroom. These have to be some of the roomiest trains out there. Then riders are secured by a U-shaped lap bar. It is also worth noting this is an extremely accommodating ride to larger guests. Ironically, I think Mario Kart and Yoshi's Adventure are actually less accommodating, despite not even being roller coasters. The carts also have onboard audio. This is loud, clear, and reliable, and it definitely helps the on-ride experience. Now I'll run through the ride itself. I have ridden the Epic Universe version a few times, but not Japan's due to those aforementioned technical issues. For the sake of this review, I will have to assume that Japan's experience is identical to Florida's. From friends I know who have ridden both, I've heard that is the case. Once dispatched, you round a corner. The iconic soundtrack begins, and you pass a Dixie Kong animatronic who waves to guests. You then ascend the first of two lift hills. This one heads up the Golden Temple. It is a great visual, especially since the track disappears and is replaced by steps. The only weird thing is a cutout on the right side, but that needs to be there to accommodate the boom arm. The lift starts off at a decent pace, but at the top, you pass through a barrel. If you're familiar with the Donkey Kong games, that usually equates to a speed boost. So here, the lift uniquely accelerates over the top, so it feels like a surprise pseudo-launch. You then have a tiny dip, completely forceless, but it appears to pass over a piece of broken track. How does the gimmick work for me? The straight pieces of track are just okay. To be honest, I found myself more interested in the visuals around me, rather than staring directly at the track. Other guests, especially ones who did not know the engineering behind the ride, were staring directly at that fake track, screaming their heads off. You then proceed forwards into a great-looking temple. It appears the track will turn left, but instead, you see Donkey Kong and Diddy Kong ride forwards in a minecart. So instead, you dive downwards into the right. This sideways track shift is super effective. Whereas I knew where the train was going on the track jumps going forwards, I didn't always know where the segments that changed side to side directions were going. As a result, this drop really whips you downwards. It is a large and sudden drop, especially since your body is not bracing for it. This part is sort of jolty, which is a repeated theme anytime this coaster turns. You then head upwards, jumping over fake track once again. You enter the bridge with enough speed that you actually get some weak floater airtime. I believe this is one of many sections disguising a mid-course brake run, although it is hard to tell because they're visually hidden from sight, and the train typically does not slow down in these. You then have a quick dip downwards. If you're in the back row, you'll get another tiny pop of airtime here. You then have an extended track jump, and turn right into another temple. It shuffles quite a bit here. Upon further review of a POV, I noticed the track briefly kinks one way before turning the other. This happens on several turns. I'm not sure if that's for thematic or clearance purposes, but I think it negatively impacts the experience because it induces extra jolts. I do love the visuals of the statues and rockwork on this turn though. Next is a section of trick track. The train suddenly shifts right to avoid some jewels, and then left to avoid another minecart. I could anticipate these track shifts because I logically knew the train wouldn't plow into another object, but I couldn't quite guess when the shift would initiate, so it induced some fun laterals. These transitions were once again jolty though. You then decelerate and turn right, leaving the temple. You then have your second lift hill, up another golden stairwell. At the top, you have another neat visual. As you proceed forwards into another temple, this one looks particularly ominous with the fog and red lighting. The fake track is also being warped into a corkscrew. This disguises another curved drop. This is just as whippy as the first, but this one is joltier due to the profiling. To try and trick riders they're going into the corkscrew, There is a sudden leftward kink once again before you dip right. When you emerge, you jump upwards onto another bridge disguising a mid-course brake run. Then you have a drop downwards and to the right. This is another weird leftward bend in the entry, so it too offers a jolt. You seemingly dip through the teeth of a statue, and then you glide over the water. It is one of the best visuals on the ride. You then jump upwards into the original temple and hit the brakes, but the ride isn't quite over yet. You have 2 more dark ride scenes. The first one is a jumbo Donkey Kong animatronic playing the drums. He looks fantastic between the scale, detail, and movements. Then you see Diddy Kong holding the mystical banana you were seeking all along. You then return to the load platform, ending the experience. I think the overall duration is solid. In terms of pacing, this ride doesn't have too many thrill elements, but I was completely engaged start to finish due to the visuals. They are enthralling. You have that aforementioned fake track gimmick, some beautiful temples, nice landscaping, and the occasional animatronic. If you prioritize visuals, this is the ride for you. Smoothness is a bit trickier. I've heard that some people argue the roughness is deliberate to match the experience of a runaway minecart, but I think it was unintentional due to the ride system. Due to the boom arm and positioning of your vehicle several feet above the real track, any bumper imperfection is magnified. You're riding on a cantilever arm. The same thing happens with a B&M wing coaster, just horizontally. That's why those edge seats are bouncier than the interior seats. I think most of Minecart Madness is fine, but the turns are jolty. I found it tolerable, as did my wife, who tends to have a lower threshold than me. It is much less rough than an old wood coaster, but the issue here is you have a smooth section followed by a sudden bang you cannot always anticipate, so they can sneak up on you if you don't properly brace yourself. I do wonder how this ride will age if this is how it's riding in year 1. Hopefully it doesn't get any worse from how it currently is, especially since there are so many vehicles they have to maintain. What would I rate Minecart Madness? I would give this coaster a 7 out of 10. This is a good ride, if you prioritize visuals. I love the aesthetics of the temple and fake track. Then some of the sudden turns mix in a hint of thrills. These moments can be a bit jolty, but again, I found them tolerable. Just try to avoid a long wait with this ride. It absolutely is not worth a 2 or 4 hour wait. I think the capacity really is this ride's biggest issue. Those are my thoughts on Minecart Madness, the unique boom coaster. What do you think about this ride? Whether it be the Epic Universe or Universal Japan version, let me know down in the comments. If you enjoyed this review, I would appreciate it if you gave this video a like, and you consider subscribing, because there'll be a lot more roller coaster and amusement park videos here at Canopy Coaster. Thanks for watching.